3 years ago, I was still working a 9 to 5, and I felt like I was trapped, like I would be there forever before I could have freedom to spend my time and be wherever I wanted to. But today I run my Airbnb business full time and I have complete freedom. And I'm actually going to show you how you can do it too. Now, the trick is you have to start an Airbnb business that's going to be profitable from day one, but it's actually easier than you might think. This is the exact process that allowed me to leave my 9 to 5. I've taught it to other hosts, and you're going to learn everything that you need before you spend a dime. The first step is a little bit of a combination step. It's picking the right location, identifying your guest avatar, who it is you are going to serve. Okay, so the location is kind of a two-parter. Well, it's an actual two-parter. And the first part of that is to pick a location that is a place where people are already going. Are there major employers, attractions, national parks, historic downtown, a hospital, wineries, anything that makes that location a place that people visit year-round. Now, the other part of location is it can't just be a popular place, it has to be a place where short-term rentals are allowed. And there have been increasing restrictions in cities nationwide, but there are still several places that do allow short-term rentals. Places like Houston and Phoenix, even Nashville allow short-term rentals, and those are places that people are constantly visiting. Because if you don't pick a place where people are going and where short-term rentals are legal, I don't care how cute your decor is, it's going to be really hard to be profitable from day one. And that is the most important factor if you want to be able to leave your 9 to 5 as quickly as I did. Now, when it comes to short-term rental laws or regulations, you actually want to pick a place that already has some laws on the books and allows them. That's because it's pretty unlikely that they are going to revisit the issue and put an outright ban on short-term rentals. But if you go to a place that doesn't have anything on the books, I really think that you're rolling the dice, because they could ban them or they could severely restrict them, and that could shut down your business overnight. Here's another subcategory of the location. You found one where people are going, you found a location where they're legal. Next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that there is the local labor force to support your Airbnb business. So you're going to need cleaners, handymen, pest control, landscapers, pool and hot tub people. Don't pick a place where short-term rentals are allowed and people go, but there isn't a local labor force. And one place like that that actually comes to mind is the Shenandoah Valley. It's an incredibly popular national park. Hikers go there almost year round, and short-term rentals are largely legal throughout that region, but the local labor force is really minimal. And the reason why this matters is because, one, you're going to be competing for cleaners. You're not going to be able to manage the quality of those contractors because you're basically a captive audience. If there are only 1 to 2 cleaners that do short-term rentals, your choices are limited. So make sure that you're looking at places that have that local labor force infrastructure to support your Airbnb business. Okay, so we've gotten those basics out of the way in terms of picking your location. Next, you want to know, are enough people going there in order for you to be able to be profitable? And I like the number of 65% of occupancy rate. So that means out of the 365 days a year, 65% of the time you are hosting guests. Doing the quick math. So that would mean for about 237 nights a year, you are hosting guests. And I think with all of these criteria in mind, you can actually run a really quick ChatGPT search to identify locations that meet all of these criteria. It's the Amazon guy. Okay, you just left. So in ChatGPT, what you would do is enter a prompt saying that you are looking for a location for your Airbnb business that hosts visitors year-round, allows short-term rentals that are not too restrictive even with a permit, has a local labor force to support an Airbnb business, gets at least 65% occupancy rate, and that should spit out a list of cities that you'll then want to go and verify on websites like AirDNA or Rabu. And what these sites do is they look at Airbnb listings and how booked the calendars are, and they'll tell you on average for a market what the occupancy rate and, importantly, what the average nightly rate is. You can use the free versions of these websites, although I do think that they are worth paying for because you're going to get a lot more insight into the occupancy rate by month, and you'll be able to pinpoint exact neighborhoods within that location that are more profitable than others. The next thing that you want to do is you want to identify what type of guests travel there, and of those, who you want to serve. And a great way to do this is to look at your competitor properties and to read their reviews. This is all information available on VRBO as well as Airbnb's website. What do the guests say about the location, the amenities, the decor, the guest communication? And you're really looking for gaps. If guests don't like the location, you'll want to be sure to identify what homes in that market have the poorest ratings on location, all of which you can find again on Airbnb's website. And essentially, you're just looking to fill the gaps and do better than your competitors. So the next thing that you really want to analyze with these competitor reviews is what type of guests travel there. Are they business travelers? Well, then how can you cater to digital nomads? Are they families? How can you make sure that your furnishing will accommodate families? Okay, so now you have the basic ingredients to understand how much revenue an Airbnb can make. Now, at this point, you're really going to have to decide how many bedrooms of a home that you want to acquire. And once you've decided on that, then you're really going to want to crunch the numbers to see how much general revenue you can make. Now, the thing about finding a really profitable Airbnb is that there are two factors that determine profitability. First is the obvious, which is the number of bedrooms, because the more guests that you can host, obviously the more that you can charge. The second is like the quality of the home, be it the location, the amenities, the decor. And in order to be really profitable, you really want to maximize on both of these. So what is the biggest home that you can afford, and what are the best amenities, decor that you can provide? Because all of this then is going to translate into a more profitable Airbnb. Okay, so now that you have your gross revenue number, you need to calculate your costs. How much is it going to cost you on a monthly basis to run that Airbnb? You're going to have to think about your rent or your mortgage, utilities, internet, insurance, water, software subscriptions, trash and recycling. And then another important thing that I think people just don't focus on enough, and that is your reserves. So you're going to want to set aside 10% each for vacancy, repairs, and capital expenditures. The next cost that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on is cleaning. For me, that is a pass-through expense. I charge guest cleaning and then I pay that directly to my cleaners. It's really kind of a net zero on my end. The fourth step now is we're going to be able to calculate profits because you've got your gross revenue number and you've got a good sense of how much your costs are. And don't worry, if you can't get exact numbers for your costs, I think a pretty decent average is anywhere from 40 to 50% of gross revenue should be for your operating costs. So once you've done the math, you've subtracted your costs from your gross revenue, you know how much that Airbnb listing is going to make. Now for me, I just have personal targets for the profit number, the cash flow that I want to make based on the size of the home. It's worth it to get a 1-bedroom unit if I'm making at least $1,500 in profit a month. For a 2-bedroom, looking for $2,000, 3-bedroom, $3,000, 4-bedroom, $4,000, and so on. And those may not be the numbers that you choose. I would just suggest that for you, you have a minimum amount of profit that you are going to make on a home before you decide to purchase it, your furnishing. You can spend anywhere from $10 to $25 per square foot. When I first started, I spent like $25 a square foot. So I think I spent like $20,000 to $25,000 on my first listing, and that's because I bought everything new. I wouldn't recommend that moving forward, and it's actually not what I do anymore. But regardless, you're gonna have to have a 1-bedroom, I would say anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to get that unit up and running. If it's a 2-bedroom, anywhere from 10 to 15. Keep in mind that if you have a home that has a front yard and a backyard, you're going to need to furnish each of those spaces so that they are extended living for your guests. So you'll want to factor that into how much money you have set aside for furnishing, decor, and supplies. If you want more detail on furnishing and how much that costs and all the things that you have to buy, I have done previous videos on that, which I will link right here, and I will also link the shopping list that I have created that lists all of the supplies and furnishing and decor that you need with links to purchase everything so that you don't even have to think about it, and I will include that in a pinned comment. Okay, so the next thing that you'll need to do to set up is if you want more guidance on how to decorate your Airbnbs, I also think I have videos on that, but some quick tips are: 1, invest a few bucks in a Udemy course where you can pay just like 20 bucks. Learn from a pro. I took a course on interior design that taught me all of like the major styles. I took one on how to do styling of a home, so like how would you style a coffee table, a mantle, etc. And that basic education gave me everything I need. And today I now know what style of home I want. I know like what colors look best, and then I just kind of throw that into ChatGPT and I talk about the parameters of the home, like this is how tall tall the ceilings are, these are the measurements of each room, and I say, you know, I want something in a boho chic color drenched style, for example, and it'll spit out images that I can then use as a guide to help me with the interior design. And that's really all I need to decorate my homes. And I will say they're beautiful and my guests agree. But I am not a professional designer. I just taught myself a little bit and used the available tools. So you can definitely do it too. You've furnished, you've designed, all that good stuff. The next step is going to be your photography. I recommend not doing it yourself. Do not use your phone. I recommend outsourcing this to a professional photographer that specializes in short-term rentals. Airbnb actually has a marketplace of available photographers. I've never used that. I just look on Thumbtack or TaskRabbit to find local photographers. I look at their examples, then book them. I've actually found one that I use for all of my homes because he does a fantastic job. Once you get your photographs, then that enables you to actually set up your listing in all of your software. So let's get into the listing and your automations. So you're going to have a property management software. I love and use Hospitable. It coordinates your calendar. So if you are listing on VRBO, Booking.com, Airbnb, you have your own direct booking website, which I'm starting to get into, it will across all of those platforms make sure that guests can't double book. So it's the singular calendar where all of those systems send information about bookings, and it makes sure that you don't get double booked. Other thing that property management software does is it communicates to your cleaner and your guests. Next, you're gonna have smart pricing. I use Price Labs, and there are others out there, but that's the only one I've used. I like them well enough. And what this does is it looks at all of the market data, occupancy rates, average nightly rates, and it will automate your pricing for you. Now, this is not set it, forget it, and you're gonna have to go in and make sure that it's doing right, but it's a pretty hands-off system once you've set it up, and you just go in like once a week to check it. Next step that you are gonna have to take is to set up your financial accounts. There are 3 that you absolutely must have. First, obviously, is going to be your checking account, your dedicated checking account that doesn't include any of your personal funds. And you can use free online banking. I think I use Bluevine. I love them. They're really easy to use and there's no fee. The next you're gonna have to set up is bookkeeping software. Don't be like me, don't wait, because if you do, it's going to be really, really hard to track all of your money properly come tax time. Do yourself a favor, get QuickBooks. I think it's expensive. That's the thing I don't like about QuickBooks is how much it costs. It's ridiculous. I think I pay like almost $100 a month, which is insane. But it is the premier software that accountants use. You can give access to your accountant to it. The next type of financial account that you're gonna wanna set up and pay for is a budgeting software. QuickBooks is just for bookkeeping. It's not for budgeting, right? It's sort of an after the fact accounting, but budgeting is before the fact. It's planning for your money. I am able to set up line items in my budget for everything. How much I'm saving for supplies, how much I am putting away for, to pay myself an owner draw, how much I'm setting aside for all of my reserves. Everything that I spend money on, I have allocated in my You Need a Budget account. And trust me, this is hands down going to be one of the most important things you do for your business because it's going to allow you the control that you need over your money and spending it wisely. My rule of thumb is that for all of my income, I pay the current month and the next month's bills before I do anything else. So before I pay myself any money, I make sure that 2 months are covered. Sometimes I'll go a little further and do 3 months based on what my calendar looks like, but it gives me peace of mind to have my bills paid ahead of time and know that I can cover them. And the thing that you're gonna wanna do at this point as well is buy your smart lock. This is what's going to allow your guests to have a code generated automatically to unlock the door without you having to do anything. The one that I love and use is Slage On Code because it integrates with Hospitable, so I don't even have to do anything. As soon as a booking comes in, Hospitable does its thing and it sends a message to the lock and it sets the code, and then it includes that code in the automated check-in message. So I literally have to do nothing. And the great thing about that kind of lock, and that lock in particular, is because it's Wi-Fi enabled, I can access it at any time. Okay, so now you have all of this stuff in place and you're almost ready to go live. Now you kind of have to set everything up. So you have to get your listing done, which means you need your photographs, and you can set up a free account on Airbnb. Now here's the thing, if you are a brand new host, like you don't have a host account on either VRBO or Airbnb, I recommend setting up your host account at least 2 weeks before you plan to go live. Here's why. Because you have to enter in your bank details and you have to submit some tax documentation to each one of those, and those can take a few business days to to process. So you want to get all of that done so that you are ready to accept bookings right away. Now you have to set up your listing first before you're able to set up any of your automations, because they depend on the link to the listing. So once you get your listing done, you don't necessarily have to go live right away. You can put it, at least on Airbnb, you can put it on like sleep mode and then give that information to Hospitable. Hospitable is going to be the first thing that you set up once your listing is done, because you can then set up all of your automated messages. I do have a detailed video on all of the like 4 or 5 messages for each guest that are automated. You're going to want to set all of that up. And you can use the same or different messages for Airbnb and Vrbo, although I think I do slightly different ones. I'd have to check. And once you set up all of your guest messaging, you're going to want to make sure to set up your cleaners to get automated messages as well. But once you have your cleaner in place, you can set them up as a teammate in your property management system, and then they will get the automated messages of new bookings, of cancellations, of checkouts, of check-ins, so that you really don't have to do any of it. So in setting up your listing, I highly recommend being pet friendly. And here's why. After air conditioning, pets are the second most looked for amenity on the Airbnb website. So you will be missing out on revenue and a whole guest avatar if you don't accept pets. And I have a little bit of a hot take here, and like seriously, no shade to kids at all. I love kids. I've had more damage from kids than I have had from pets. So if getting damage from pets is something you're worried about, it's incredibly rare. I wouldn't let that deter me from hosting pets, although I would be smart about it. Get things like a leather couch. Make sure you have a pet bed and waterproof pet blankets. Again, I have a list of all of the items, including all of the pet amenities, in a pinned comment, and you can just pull from there. One thing to keep in mind in setting up your listing is that Airbnb and VRBO are both search engines. You want to make sure that when guests are searching, the terms that they're using are included in your listing. So you'll want to make sure that things like even the file names of your photos are search engine optimized. How I do it is I say like the name of the town, pet friendly, king, bedroom, whatever. That way for each photo, Airbnb and VRBO are sort of picking that up and they're serving my listing first before serving competitors. And it works pretty well because I look on Airbnb's conversion data that they give you, and I think it's like 70 or 80% of the time, my listings are showing up on the first page of searches that pop up. So you want to make sure that in every aspect of your listing, from the description, the photos, you are using search engine optimization. And you can kind of look on Google, like enter the name of your town and then Airbnb, and see all of the, people also search for, or like the suggested search terms, and make sure that those are what's included in your listing as well as your photo file names. Okay, so like your listing is done, you've got your cleaner, you've set up your property management software. Now you're going to connect your property management software to your other automation. So your pricing software, your smart lock, and perhaps your security system, if that's relevant. And this is really important because you really want your property management software managing everything else. So you don't want to directly connect your Airbnb listing to Price Labs or whatever pricing software you use. You want to do it to your property management software so that it's sending one signal for each one of your properties. It's sending that singularly one time, versus what you would have to do if you don't use property management software is you'd have to connect your Vrbo listing and your Airbnb listing in Price Labs, and then you'd have to tell Price Labs, no, these are the same listing. Like it gets way too complicated. So you want to make sure that everything, all of your automation, you are connecting it to your property management software. So with all of this in place, like your listing is ready to go live and you want to hit publish, but you're not quite done yet. Now that you are going to be accepting guests, one thing that Airbnb and VRBO will do for you as a new host or a new listing is they will ensure that your property will be listed as like within the top 2 or 3 that come up in search results if you offer your first 3 guests. I think it's like a 20% discount. I do this every single time because I want to give my property every chance that it can to show up in search terms and to get bookings. And Airbnb also does a really good job of the first 30 days making sure that your listing will pop up on that first page. So So definitely take advantage of that 20% discount for the first 3 guests. And a pro tip here is I don't open up a full year's calendar when I first list. I usually open up only the first 30 days because I don't want guests to be able to get that 20% discount far into the year or on things like holidays. You've listed, you are getting bookings. Now comes, I think, probably the most important thing. You want to pay attention to any guest feedback and make changes. And you want to make sure that you are paying attention to that feedback and that you're addressing it, because what you want to happen is you want every subsequent guest to have at least as good of an experience as the previous guest had, if not better. If this video has been helpful to you, let me know in the comments. In my next video, I'm going to go over the 3 different types of Airbnb business models in depth so you can learn exactly what model works for your timeline and your goals. So hit subscribe and the notification bell so that you're alerted of any new videos. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.